Stop sharing for a second.
So, we're going to walk through a site audit. This is the webinar, Get an Eye for Optimization, Identify Opportunities for Testing and Optimizing Your Website. I'm Ruby Perlmutter. I'm a marketing manager here at SiteSpec.
I'm Kate Orchard. I'm the lead optimization consultant at SiteSpec.
So in this half hour or so, we're going to walk through an audit of one of our sandbox retail sites. This is a site that we use to demo and to teach using SiteSpec. So you'll notice a couple little quirks on the website. It's a good example of a pretty typical clothing e-commerce. And Kate's going to walk us through how you do a site audit. So before we launch into that, Kate, can you talk a little bit about what is a site audit? What are you looking for? What are you going to come away with? What are you doing to prepare?
Yeah, so the site audit is really, walking through your site to look for potential opportunities for optimization, roadblocks where your users might be, having a hard time, and basically just the goal ultimately is to find test ideas so that you can start experimenting and improving everything. Before you start, it's a really good idea to have a good sense of all of your website's current data and behaviors. So if you have something like Google Analytics or any other analytics set up, it's a good idea to check them out and look for big drop-offs and try to see where are your users coming from. Are they coming from Google, or are they coming organically, that sort of thing, and just have a really good sense of how they behave on your site right now, so that you can better optimize it going forward.
Awesome.
But yeah, so when you start it, actually, it's good idea to have a couple of really specific scenarios to help you. So a lot of times it's really hard to evaluate your own website because you know it inside and out. You're part of the company, you know how everything works, why it's structured a certain way. But the hardest part, I think, is really coming in with fresh eyes and pretending you don't know anything. So one way to do that is to actually come up with really specific scenarios to help you just guide that process and focus on what you're looking for. So scenarios could be something like, moved into a new apartment, it's really small, I need a new sofa, but I need to find something that will fit in my space. Or for example, maybe I want to go back to school and I'm looking for places where I can take nursing classes, either online or in person, something like that.
Cool. So for today's site review, what's our scenario?
Yeah. So today's scenario is going to be, pretty broad, but we're going to be just a casual user who's looking for a nice new pair of shoes. Maybe we have some events coming up. We've landed on this site through search, but we're not necessarily super familiar with it. We're not a repeat user. We could be new to this brand.
Cool. So while we launch into the website, can we walk through, so we'll start on the homepage. What are some of the goals that this homepage should accomplish? What are you looking for this scenario?
Cool. So with the homepage and through everything, you just really want to be asking yourself, does this help me get my goal? So for us, does this help us find the shoes we want? The homepage and most landing pages are pretty high in the funnel. So one of the things that you really want to focus on here is just to, one main thing is to prevent bounce. Users don't spend a lot of time necessarily investigating your site. It's really like first impressions. So you want to keep people on the site at least looking for more, for more information, looking at some of your products, something like that. So you want engagement on your navigation, engagement on your content, that sort of thing.
For a page like this where no purchase is happening from this particular homepage, what kind of KPIs are you tracking to see if it's successful?
Yeah, so obviously bounce is one of those, as I already mentioned. Bounce is lower is better, so sort of like an opposite KPI. But then certainly, things like engagement with the navigation, time on the page, scroll depth. How much are these users really looking at your site before they're just deciding whether or not you're going to have what they want.
So from that, what test ideas are you seeing right off the bat here?
Yeah, from this one, I would say pretty clearly you can see that, it's not obvious everything that this site offers. You can tell that, maybe it's clothing given this woman here, shop new looks, that's sort of like a little bit of what we call information sent to help us figure out what's going on. But one test idea I would do right off the bat is expose a lot of these categories. So if you do take the time to look at shop, you'll see there's a ton of offerings. We have men's stuff, women's, kids, accessories. None of that you can really tell right off the bat. So exposing this would be great. Also, including for the same goal, you might want to include more content blocks. So instead of one big picture, maybe you have a few different sections that each call out different categories, different types of products, so that you can see the variety really quickly.
Cool. So where's our user going now?
Okay, well, we're looking for shoes. So luckily, when we do open the navigation, it's it's pretty clearly a section for shoes, boots, and trainers. So we are going to go there.
Awesome. So now we're on the category page. What are we looking for here? What's our first kind of overall? What are we keeping our eye out for? What questions are you asking? And what KPIs would be important on this category page?
Yeah. So again, in our scenario specifically, the goal is to get us to buy some shoes, but category pages in general, I think, are really important for helping users get excited about your potential offerings and to help show the breadth of what you do offer. So, obviously not every single product or offering that you have is going to be perfect for everyone. So you want to make sure there's an impression that, maybe this first item on the page is not what you want, but there may be something else there for you. So the goal is really to get users, to give them that sense that, the site is worth continuing to look at, and then ultimately get them to start looking more specifically at products.
How do you balance things like the more sort of functional aspects, like maybe filter or pricing, and things that are more kind of style focused, like the header font or maybe like the image in the header?
Yeah.
How are you kind of balancing looking at those things?
Yeah, they're all really important. Obviously, some of the functional pieces can really help you literally find what you're looking for. If you're a site that has a lot of different offerings, if you don't have good filtering, if you don't have good sorting and stuff like that, then it's gonna be like finding a needle in a haystack. And most of us are not that persistent when we're looking for something. So you definitely want to make it as easy as possible for users to be able to narrow down what they're looking for. But visually, really you want everything. You want the visual feeling to match your products. So for example, this site looks like these shoes are pretty high end. They're not super fancy, but they're better than your corner store flip-flops. So we're looking for something a little bit nicer. So you want that to match. Like you want it to look like a lifestyle kind of brand. You want to sell whatever the story is. Luxury items usually you might have bigger pictures and just sort of a cleaner aesthetic. So if there's a mismatch between what your users are expecting your product or expecting their product that they want and what your site, the impression it gives, that is another reason people will bounce. If they're looking for something really high end and your site kind of looks like, just as I said, the corner store, like they're probably going to leave. But it's the same the other way around. If they're looking for something just utilitarian, they're probably not going, they're going to assume that your high-end luxury looking site is going to be too expensive or something. So it goes both ways.
So on this page also, there's add to cart buttons on this page. So that's clearly an important KPI, but what other metrics are you looking at to determine if you've done a good job with a successful category page?
Yeah, a lot of times people will add to cart from a category page, especially if there's enough information here, or if you have quick views. But for the most part, users are going to go more detailed into a product page. So the KPIs here are really anything related to getting that user farther down the funnel. So of course, clicking on products from here is a big one, but also, filter use, if you like right here, we have the option to show a different number of products per line. So anything like that is just showing engagement and that the user is interested. One KPI that I like to track on category pages, which is a little bit maybe backwards, is search use. So search use directly from a product page a lot of times indicates that or from a category page, a lot of times indicates that the user isn't really able to find what they're looking for. So maybe the filters aren't appropriate, or they're not filtering right, or they're not seeing them, or for whatever reason, they're not finding what they want, and so they're resorting to search. So that's one,
really interesting.
Yeah, I like to track it. It's, just because search goes up doesn't necessarily mean what you did is bad, but a lot of times it can be an indicator of users kind of getting lost.
That's interesting. So you mentioned a bunch of ideas already, but any other tests that you would definitely run on this page?
Yeah, so certainly, more or fewer items per row with bigger pictures, smaller pictures, that sort of thing is really great. What information you're showing here per product. So, it could be as basic as, just the title, just the name of the product, or you could have things like, price and dimensions, depending on what you're offering, all these specifics that can just help the user get a better sense before they click over to the product page. If you're selling, again, size types and that sort of thing. If you're looking for like a wide width shoe, you want to maybe call that out or something like that. And also, like we talked about the filters and things like sort. So there's a lot of testing you can do with filters, not just whether or not they're there, but what order you put them in, whether they start out open or closed. All of these things can be really beneficial to helping user go to the next page and find that product they're looking for.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. So where's our shoe chapter going now?
Yeah, it's really, really tough because there's some nice shoes here, but I think we're gonna go for these cork sandals, cork block sandals.
Very nice.
Oh yeah.
So we're on the individual product page. Probably pretty interested in purchasing. So what are we looking for?
Yeah. So again, from here, I mean, your biggest goal is really to get someone to add to cart. But secondary to that, it's probably to make sure that if they're not adding to cart, that they're at least looking elsewhere, because, the first thing you look at isn't necessarily going to be what you want, and that's fine. It doesn't have to be a one and done, but, for the most part, we really want them to find out as much as they can about this product to make sure it fits their needs, and they're able to make an informed decision and a confident decision. One thing about product detail pages is that you're getting, as you said, you're getting close to adding it, but you want to make sure there's no doubt in the user's mind. So anything that can help just make them feel confident about this being the right decision is really going to be key.
What's standing out to you on this page that we should definitely test?
Yeah, well, so the first thing, you guys will notice that like intuitively I scroll down here. This is a really easy one. This is like basic, but I would do a really quick test to remove this banner to see if this is helpful. I mean, it might be. Maybe there's some great lifestyle pictures that are helping make me feel like this is really going to be, I'm going to like become that great person when I get these shoes. I'm going to transform myself. But at the same time, it's pushing everything really far down. And as you can see, like you have to go pretty far even just to get to the price and the add to cart and everything like that. So that would be a really basic test that I would set up. It would be an easy one to do. But also just, I'm not seeing, it's a little bit hard to find all the details and reviews. Users really like reviews. Even the negative ones help inform them for what they want.
I think the negative ones are more helpful sometimes.
It's true, they really are. And a lot of times a negative review a negative aspect for one person is not negative for someone else. So,
right.
If you're giving it 1 star because you said, the heel is too high, and I'm like, well, the higher the better.
Right.
Then I'm all for it. So yeah, I think besides this piece here, just making sure we get as much of the information up front and clear is great. One nice thing about this is that you can get really big pictures. You can zoom in. So that's a really nice feature. Users aren't looking at this in person, and so they want to be able to see as closely as possible, what it's really going to be like. But some other ideas that I would do actually are around this concept of urgency. Mm-hmm. So we talked about making users comfortable with what they're buying, and make sure this is like removing any doubt and that this is going to be the best product for them. But I mean, at the same time, you want them to buy it now rather than later. I'm sure we've all added something to cart and let it sit there for weeks or months before we decide. Exactly. And I think the longer you put off the decision, the less likely you are to buy it. So you want someone to say, this is what I want, and I'm going to get it right now. So urgency type messaging might be, if you're having a sale, make sure you have when the sale is going to end. So if it's going to end soon, we want to get it now. But even if it's not sale related, it's, you can have a lot of improvement in your conversion to add to cart just by having messages that indicate that this is like a really popular product and it could sell out. If you're able to pull in actual stock data, and you could say, there's only 4 left of this, that's really great. But otherwise, for your really popular products, it is good to have some messaging. You probably don't want to put it on everything because people will get immune to it. But for those popular products, putting something that says, even going fast, 5 people bought this in the last hour or something like that, can be helpful just to get people to do it now and not put it off.
That makes a lot of sense. So our user has really
nice features. Yeah, these are pretty awesome.
So what happens now?
Okay, so these are pretty awesome. We love these.
Yeah.
We're going to just add them to our cart. So luckily, we were willing to scroll down and find all this. And so we're just going to pick our size. We're going to add to cart. And one thing you'll notice here is the page sort of refreshed a little bit, but there wasn't a huge indicator that we added to cart. You'll see up in the corner, now we have one little thing in our cart, but it wasn't really it wasn't super obvious. That's not necessarily going to kill your conversion, but basically you want to remove any doubt at any step of the way for a user. So if they maybe didn't notice that the page refreshed and they're not sure that we actually added this to cart, there's just like a little bit of doubt in their mind, and you don't want any doubt. So something like after you add to cart, either putting a message right near the button that says it was added, or even having a drop down or like a modal that pops up that confirms that we just added the correct color, size, etc. to the cart can be really useful. Something like a modal is also helpful because there's room to put maybe, cross-sell products that they might be interested in, that sort of thing. So you can do a little upsell at that point.
That makes sense. Cool. So what now?
Yeah, so we added it. Let's go to checkout.
So at this point, we're in the cart. She's gonna buy.
Yeah.
Are we done?
Well, I mean, we are personally pretty motivated, it seems, but not everyone is. So a lot of people really can abandon from the cart. And I know I've mentioned this a lot already, but removing doubt, this is really important when you get to the cart, because you definitely don't want anyone to start questioning things when they're so close to purchasing.
Yeah.
You know, you want to make sure that they don't, you also want to make sure they don't get surprised farther down the line with extra costs, because, you know, you really kind of abandon at the last step if you think that you kind of got, you know, you got swindled or something, and suddenly now it costs more. So making sure all your costs or potential costs are really clear. So this is great. There's a place for us to calculate shipping. Adding shipping time is also really helpful. You know, I want these before the weekend because I'm going to be doing something great and I want to wear them. So I want to make sure that I'll be able to get them in time. And if I have to pay more, I want to know how much that will be. So yeah, all of those sort of pricing pieces are useful. Coupon code is an interesting one. If you have a coupon code, and especially if you've been promoting it elsewhere in the site, you have to be able to, you know, put it somewhere. You want someone to find that. But if you make it too obvious, then a lot of people will assume that there's a code somewhere out there that they just don't have. And a lot of people will abandon while they're looking for a coupon code and then never come back. So
that's really interesting.
Want to be careful there.
Yeah. So those are some test ideas. Any KPIs you're looking for other than purchasing?
Yeah, I mean, obviously purchase is the big one, but you want to track all of the steps of the process. So even if you have all of checkout in one page, you want to see how far the user is getting. So, you know, are they getting through the shipping, through the payment, all of those, like what step, if they're dropping off, what step are they dropping off? Other great things to collect when you do have the final conversion is how much is that order for? So, you know, average order value, you know, generally speaking, it's better to have, you know, one order that's really big than two orders that are small, just because it's going to be a little bit less overhead to put it together.
Right.
But obviously all the orders are useful. So average order value is great. And a lot of my clients also collect the actual confirmation ID for when they finally check out. So literally, you know, whatever that ID is that you get, where it says, you know, like, keep this for reference. It's helpful to have that so you can go back and, you know, just make sure that everything is aligned on in your own systems, and then also you can track returns that way. So depending on what you're testing, you may or may not get an increase in returns.
Great. So how often would you recommend going through the site audit process?
Yeah.
It's like a regular thing or like a once in a while thing? Yeah.
I mean, I would do some of it pretty regularly.
Yeah.
I don't think you have to do your whole site all the time. I mean, I would certainly try to do the whole site at least a couple times a year, just because you're going to be making changes all the time and making improvements. So all of, you know, you might making improvements in one place, but how does it fit all together? But I would like, you know, monthly be looking at least something, and where can you make improvements there?
How does a site audit or site review fit into your general kind of optimization strategy? Like, where are you going from here? Where in the process is it?
Yeah, well, so this is going to be obviously not the only way you're coming up with ideas. You know, you're going to have bigger goals, and then I see the site audit as a way of finding pieces that can help get you to that larger goal. So the goals are not always going to be the same. So you may have a goal to get you know, as many orders as possible. So maybe you don't care if the average order value is low, you just want as many possible orders. Or maybe a goal might be to increase the average order value. And you're really going to have different ideas based off of what that goal is. You know, whether you're trying to upsell earlier on versus just get it as streamlined as possible straight to checkout. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's kind of amazing how many ideas you can get from looking at like 3 pages on the site. We have some time now to answer questions. So if you have any questions, you can go ahead and type them into the Q&A box in the Zoom window. I'll give a second to kind of do that if any questions are coming. In the meantime, is there anything that I didn't ask that you wanted to throw in there before we get to some questions?
Oh, good question. I mean, I think I probably got high level a lot of it. This is certainly not like a deep dive into all of a site audit you're going to do. The more you do these, the more you're going to find, the easier it's going to get. I think one thing that's important to remember is, of those scenarios we talked about to help guide you, is to make sure you come up with not just one scenario, but a lot of them. So, we picked one, one use case, but it's good to look at your site as maybe a returning user, someone who's like one of your loyal customers, maybe someone coming in from an item on Pinterest or something, and they land directly on a product page.
Yeah.
What happens there? What happens if they come in, land on a product page for something that you don't sell anymore, it's out of stock? So all of these use cases are great. It's good you can kind of start with the basic, but I think adding all these others will be really helpful and really beneficial.
Cool. Okay, so we have some questions.
All right.
So overall, are there any experiments you would always recommend running no matter the site?
Yeah, I think actually similar to what I was just saying about the different entry points and the different use cases. I think it's really important to make sure you test different experiences based off of some of those entry points. So especially as an example, coming in directly to an out of stock product, there's a lot of potential there. I think that's probably one of the pages where users are going to bounce the fastest because they want this thing and it's not available, but you also have a lot of opportunity to keep them. So, really optimizing some of those pages, which you don't think of as a commerce page because you can't buy that, but make sure they stay and show that you have other products that they might be interested in, and getting them to stick around and find something else.
Awesome. What is the most commonly overlooked area of e-commerce sites, do you think?
I mean, I would actually say search is probably overlooked a lot. You look at some of the big companies like Amazon, and clearly they've put so much effort into search, but most e-commerce sites can do a lot of improvement there. So simple things like not just a specific word match on your search. So a lot of times, like, the search algorithms are based off of very specific terms to your brand or to your company. But as a user, I might not know to look for, this jargon or something. I might call it something different and that sort of thing. So having your search be really flexible so that you can surface results even if someone searched for something not exactly right. Mind reading, basically.
Right. Yeah. All right, and then last question for now is, do you have any examples of test results that came from a site audit like this, especially things that the brand or someone wouldn't have thought of?
Yeah, so it's a really good question. We see a lot of really fun stuff. Recently we had one of our clients, we did a site audit for them, and we noticed that the navigation wasn't completely aligned with how a user coming in would expect to find their product. So there was a bit of a mismatch between how the navigation was structured and what the user expected. So we suggested a few different changes to the navigation and different structures and stuff, tested that, and a lot of testing is iterative, so you'll do one thing and the next, and sort of our final test for that one was really great because we increased overall conversion by 6%, which is pretty amazing.
That's huge.
Yeah, just by putting in a new navigation. And then even more fun is that the new customer conversion, so people who didn't have a background in the company already, had an increase of 13% conversion. which is great.
Yeah.
So it really indicated that we're helping customers find what they're looking for and purchase ultimately. That was a pretty good one.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
It's a good note to end on. Thank you. So thank you everyone so much for joining. If you have questions or you think of questions later, please don't hesitate to shoot a note to info@sitespec.com. I check that email, so we'll make sure to either I'll answer it or we'll get it to someone who can answer it for you. And we'll be back in touch in the next 48 hours. We'll get a recording of this out to you. And I think that's it.
Thanks.
All right,
Thanks.
thanks.
Take care.